school level meetings that we had on January 11th and 16th. We wanted to have 2 meetings so that we could be sure that we had full understanding of our community's thoughts. We had a vote that was witnessed by both Superintendent McPherson and our Deputy Mayor Sally Martin and received a unanimous outcome that the Sparta community wants the school to remain open English track.
I would clap, but I can't.
There was broad consensus that we are a community of families who have purchased homes in the Sparta Union catchment area because we see the value in the smaller rural school. We feel united with families from all schools impacted in this EPAR and in the province, and we expect these core values that put our children first to be respected. We reported back to our community the answers to the 2 questions we asked on January 9th. A, we were told that Sparta School must close because it does not have municipal water and sewer, and B, that the lack of municipal water and sewer were not considered a problem in the relocation of the French track school at Sparta. Our community expressed confusion and frustration at these 2 conflicting answers, which were the only clarification we received at the initial public meeting, other than the fact that these changes are being recommended more to accommodate potential future families that might move into Port Stanley than the actual current families that sent 242 students to Sparta. The community expressed a lack of trust in the PAR process's ability to arrive at an equitable result, as well as a lack of confidence in the consolidation funding model. We understand that this is not the Thames Valley District's funding model, but rather the Ministry of Education funding model that senior administration is forced to work within. But PAR committees are tasked tonight with reporting on what our communities feel, and frustration with this process and with a funding model that's seen as obsolete was unanimous. Honored representatives, we are not alone in feeling this way about the PAR process. We see feedback on the news that tells us that across the province, people are experiencing similar issues. We're told that the Ministry of Education is seeking solutions to deal with declining enrollment. And the obvious question is, if the problem is empty seats in empty classrooms, how does it make sense to build more schools? In 2015, Ontario's Auditor General recommended that the Ministry of Education invest more money into upgrading existing schools rather than building new ones. The decisions being made in this EPAR and in Ontario in the bigger picture appear to run contrary to the Auditor General's advice. Another piece of legislation that the Ministry of Education appears to ignore is the Ontario 5-Year Climate Action Plan. As parents, every decision we make takes into account the environmental impact on our children's future resources. A funding model that calls for getting rid of quality rural schools, like they are poker chips you have to trade to get a big brand new school, fails to take into account the problem of resource consumption that entails. There are other costs besides financial costs. In today's day, carbon costs must be considered as well. If I stand at the front door of my children's school, I can see that 12 kilometers away, there is a school called Mitchell Hepburn that is currently over capacity by 73 students. I can also see that 2 kilometers away from that, there is a school called Elgin Court that has 147 empty seats. That does not equate to critical mass, which is the board's criteria for considering new school construction. If there is a school next door that has capacity to take the overflow from its neighbor, then the need for a new school has not been demonstrated. But I'm not allowed to talk about that at my school level meetings because that neighboring school that's 2 kilometers away has not been included in this review. We are told that the existing capacity at Elgin Court is being held for future growth. With the economic instability arising from across the border, we have already seen the first layoffs being announced in this area. Many of our parents are wondering, why is senior administration holding existing pupil places for students from subdivisions that may never be built? 14 kilometers away, there's a school called Pierre Elliott Trudeau that's sitting at above capacity as well. How many places it's above capacity by, I'm not able to tell my school community because that information is also absent from this review. And yet, even though the French track overflow is currently being accommodated at Port Stanley, which has plenty of room for them, we're being told that our school has to close to make room for a second French immersion school in Elgin County. Interestingly, what we don't have access to are enrollment projections for the second French track elementary school. This puts Sparta Park Committee at a disadvantage because while we have post-consolidation enrollment projections for other schools in this EPAR, what we don't have is enrollment projections for our school. When a member of our school community asks us whether the Sparta School building will be at a higher or lower percentage of utilization once it becomes French track, we can't answer them. We were, however, able to access the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Attendance Area Review Report, conducted just a few months before the start of this review. In that report, the preference amongst the French immersion community favored the creation of a second K-8 rural French immersion school at Port Stanley. In that study, the suggestion of relocating the second French track school at Sparta was not well received by the French immersion community. So why is the board proposing to house the French track overflow at Sparta if they've already spent the time and money to do an attendance review that indicated that this was not a preferred option? That answer can only be the funding model that calls for the closure of existing schools to receive capital funding from the province to build new schools. Springfield, New Sarum, and Sparta are vibrant, thriving, quality rural schools that operate well within the board's parameters for cost per student and enrollment. They are too valuable to be thought of as poker chips tossed on the province's table so that the board can get funds to build a new school. Perhaps the most frustrating thing for our school community has been watching Mitzi Hunter tell the province that the PAR process provides an opportunity for the school community to offer meaningful and valuable input on school closures. Until tonight, the Sparta school community has not had that opportunity. Clearly, the scope of information we've been provided with does not take into account key facts and give a clear picture of what is actually at stake. I therefore welcome this opportunity to provide you on record with the most meaningful input I can on both this EPAR and the process. This EPAR 01 is not capable of providing the entire enrollment picture in the area because it does not include important information for two of the schools that are at play, Elgin Court and Pierre Elliott Trudeau. The PAR process does not provide an opportunity for meaningful debate. 12 schools in a single arc is not realistic for the representatives to give meaningful input to the trustees. Making it this complicated puts the trustees in an unfair position whereby they are faced with an all or nothing decision. The province's funding model should not view perfectly good buildings as though they are disposable. We are not living in a time when non-renewable resources are infinite. In the province of Ontario, student enrollment is down, the number of teachers are down, EQAO scores are down, and yet the education price tag keeps on going up. What kind of value for education tax dollars is that? Decisions such as the one we are debating do not, in our view,
9 minutes.
Thank you, funnel public funds to where they are most needed within our education system. The funding model has to change. Parents across the province are standing up to demand that the education system recognize that rural schools have different needs than urban areas, and that a blanket approach of consolidating schools is not the answer. Abandoning perfectly serviceable buildings to pave the way for new construction super schools is not the answer. The funding model needs to be redrawn to take environmental impact into account. Therefore, on behalf of my school community, I respectfully but firmly call on you to hold the closure of Sparta Public School until such time as a truly equitable accommodation review can be conducted. We are willing to work with you through the process and provide you our informed perspective. Thank you.